as you fade away.
Yeah, I'm about to fade away, cause every time I wake up I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with all the chemicals up in my brain. All of a sudden I don't look at anything the same way. Gotta build up of my thoughts sitting in an ashtray. I'm sorry that I'm so inconvenient, okay. Just let me be me and I'll stay out of your way. I can see the way you look at me, I'm such a disgrace. I never really asked to be brought into this place. You wanna love me? Well then baby have a taste. All the highs and the lows, no you'll never be the same. I don't really wanna hurt you but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you.
Already mic testing. Okay, perfect. Let me go to my main camera. Already we're live, and as you guys can tell by title and thumbnail, today I'm going to be working with, let's say, more databases, where last stream I was done with chunk 4, and this stream I will be working with chunk 5, that is relationships, and next stream I think I'm going to work with, like, aggregation, and all that stuff. Hopefully I'm going to be done with chunk 5 and 6 this stream, and that it won't really be as long as last stream, because I did work with Kurt last stream. Create, read, update, destroy. There we go. Okay, that's it. Let me go to my gameplay screen. There we go. And guys, ignore the background. I don't know. These are like all random wallpapers actually. I'm gonna just grab my Visual Studio Code up here. And then, I did Season 10, I'm live, and this is a brand new chat. Session 66 in the books. 4 chunks of SQLAlchemy done. Verified the 4 chunks. I forgot the chunk names, but then we're in chunk 5 today. Last chunk was Kurt though. Today we cracked chunk 5 relationships. Here's the thing. Right now your my database has exactly 1 table. Students. 1 row. Alex. A relationship by definition needs something to relate to. Right now Alex is an island. So before we touch a single line of SQLAlchemy syntax, I want your gut answer first. No research, no guessing what I want to hear. Just between what makes sense to you. If we're about to teach relationships between database tables and all we have is 1 lonely student table, what's the most obvious second thing we need to build based on what this whole roadmap has been about? We would have to build a second table. There we go. And yeah, I will be using touch typing this stream as well. Okay, mic testing. Have you tried Python already? Actually, I have tried Python. I had like a whole series on Python, which was like Python for 100 days. But my goal by the end of that series was to make a game in general, where I did make a game using, whatchamacallit, Pygames. That said, that's not wrong. That's not an answer. We'd need a second table. Is a restating question back at me. I asked what table. Slow down and actually think about it. Not what's the SQLAlchemy correct term. Just look at the word you're modeling. You're a student. Zoom out to real life for 1 second. What's the one thing that's almost always attached to a student in literal every school system that's ever existed? Courses? Have you tried Python already? Wait, is Python like a new language or like a hybrid language or something? Okay, there it is, and you should feel good about landing on that. Not because I fed it to you, but because you reasoned it from the actual domain, not from syntax. You have, remember? That's the same move you made back in the database module when joins needed courses to. Your pattern matching correctly across the curriculum, good. So here's where we are. My database currently has 1 table of students. We're about to add a course table, and then we teach SQLAlchemy how to make them aware of each other. Before I show you a single line of code, I need to know where your head's on the concept itself, not the syntax, the concept. In plain English, before you write any code, what do you think a database relationship between student and courses actually mean? Each student can be enrolled in multiple courses, and each row have multiple students. Each student has exactly 1 course, and each course has exactly 1 student. Each student can be enrolled in multiple courses. Each course can have multiple students. I think it's that. Have you tried Python already? Is that Java plus Python? Have you tried Aren't Python already? Okay, I have never heard of half these things here. Those are not new languages. Google it, you'll find it out. Oh, wait, let me actually check. What is Aren't Python? There we go. Hmm. Project, contributed version. Oh, wow. Jim Hewen created the project and actively contributed to it up till version 1.0, which was released on September 5, 2006. That was before I was born. What the hell? In Iron Python 2.0, Iron Python 2.0 was released on December 10, 2000. Okay, this is the year that I was born. After version 1.0, it was maintained by a small team. Iron Python is supported by Silverlight, which is a depicted, yeah, I think depicted is the correct word, by Microsoft, and already has lost support and was web. Oh, I see. Okay, okay. So basically, it's like an X language that's not really an actual language anymore, or that's not a language that's used anymore. Okay, correct. And that's not a guess. That's you know in your own life. You take multiple classes this semester. Each of those classes has other students in it besides you. You just described a many-to-many relationship without knowing the term of it yet. Purely from purely from lived reality. That's exactly the instinct I want you running on. Now, real talk. One flag before we go further. Before I don't get before I don't because I do not let things slide even when they're small. Each student can be enrolled in multiple courses, and each course can have multiple students. That's a specific named pattern in database design. It's not the only kind of relationship. It's one of three. You pick the right one for students slash courses, but I want to know there is a category here, not just one fact. Quick gut check before I teach it. Have you ever heard the term one to one to many, or many to many? Nope, I have not. No, it is used. You read about Silverlight, which used Iron Python, I see. Nevertheless, those are bridge languages for C, Java, and C Sharp for using Python in those environments. Huh, I see. Actually, in that case, I may really look into those things. Okay, that's it. Let's see. Good. Zero fake familiar. Familiar. Hold on. Let me close my mic because I hear myself twice. Okay, good. Zero fake familiarity. That's 7 times now in a row. And why is Claude giving me options to pick from? Hmm. Okay. One to one. One record connects to exactly one other record, period. Real world anchor, a person and their passport. You have exactly one passport. The passport belongs to exactly one you. No sharing one too many. One record connects to many records on the other side, but each of those many only connects back to one real world anchor. Think about that students' table you already have. One course could have many students enrolled, but wait. We already said each student takes multiple courses too, so is this actually the pattern? I think it is. Sit with that for a sec, I'll come back to it. Many to many. Both sides can have multiple connections to each other. Real world anchor. Exactly what you already said. A student has many courses and a course has many students. Neither side is limited to one. Now, here's the sharp part. And this is where most beginners trip. Many to many relationships cannot be built with just two tables. You need a third table sitting in the middle somewhere called a junction table or an association table. Those entire whose entire job is just recording which student is which course or is in which course. Before I tell you why that's true or show you a single line of SQLAlchemy plain words, only no code. Given students and courses have a many-to-many relationship, why do you think two tables alone, just students plus courses, isn't enough to represent that? I'm not gonna look at the two options here because I want to think of it myself. Okay, the reason why the two courses, the two tables are not enough because that could be 1 to 1. Okay, because just two tables might be. Oops, wait, hold on. I'm gonna copy this real quick, and then I'm gonna paste it here because just two tables might be considered 1-2-1, 1 to 1. One table is just for the other table and vice versa. Okay, and then let's send it. That answer is reaching for the right neighborhood, but it's not actually the reason, and I want to be precise here, not just close enough, because this is a core relational database concept. No, never mind. Not cosmetic formality, logic, and data accuracy say strict. Let's fix this one properly. Here's the problem with your answer. Having two tables does not automatically make them 1 to 1, 1 to 1, 1 to many to many. Those are all just describing how the data connects, and any of the three could theoretically involve exactly two tables. The relationship type is not caused by how many tables exist. Something else is going on. Let's isolate it. Forget SQLAlchemy completely for a second. Picture a plain spreadsheet, an Excel style student table. In a spreadsheet, Excel's rows needs to show he's enrolled in math, science, and history all at once. Would you put all three courses names into one single cell in this row? No. I would keep them in separate rows. Okay, and then I'm just gonna end that with a period and then say something like, also, can you not give me options like in the like the multiple choice pattern that we have been following? It is often because I have only two choices. Okay, and then let's send it. Fair, dropping the multiple choice. You're right. When it's down to two options, the pattern itself can hand you the answer. Wait a damn minute. It just said OBS Studio reconnected. Okay, there we go. Yeah, my PC just automatically started restarting itself, and it's like updates on the way. Keep your PC on and like don't turn it off. I'm like, bro, what the hell? Okay, let me go to my gameplay screen again, and now back to where I left off. Guys, that was so annoying. I'm like, it's never gonna even open. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and grab my undercloud here real quick. And guys, whenever my PC, I wouldn't say it crashed, it just automatically started restarting this time. Like, what the hell? But whenever that happens, it's so annoying. Okay, where was I? Probably here, right? And making sure that you guys can actually hear me. There we go. Okay, fair, dropping the multiple choice. And I just forgot all about my lighting and my... basically everything. Hold on. Let me just open this. Nope. You know what? That doesn't seem half bad. Having that be a RGB and having this be the other lighting. Like, you know what? I wouldn't really mind this as much. Hold on, let me go to my webcam real quick. I am back again. Yo, how do you feel? I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, let me go to my configure video. I'm gonna change my brightness. Let me show this to you guys. I'm gonna change my brightness to 118, contrast to 135, saturation to 148, sharpness to 141, and let's go with something like exposure, -6, -7. Okay, -7 wouldn't be half bad if I could like sort of increase this from here. No, increase this. Nope, it's awful. Yep, exposure at -6 is, I think that does the trick, right? Okay, and then I'm just gonna hit apply, and then I'm gonna hit okay. You know what? I think that as opposed to having this one be my RGB light, which is right here, it's that one's much better for an RGB. Okay, let me just close OBS real quick. Can you say my name? Philo Patir? Is that actually how you pronounce it? I couldn't pronounce it last stream either. Okay, that's it. And that answer, keep them in separate rows, is actually a real instinct pointing at the right place, even though it's not fully formed yet. You're sensing that one row per student can hold it all. Good. So on that instinct, one more step. In your own words, no options this time. If Alex there separates, if Alex needs 3 separate rows just to show 3 courses, what would each of those 3 student rows actually have to contain to make that work? Walk me through what columns you'd need and what would be different between those 3 Alex rows versus what would repeat. If Alex needs 3 separate rows just to show his 3 columns, why would Alex need 3 separate rows? I said keep them in separate rows. What would each of those students' rows actually have to contain? Each of those students' rows would have to contain 3 separate courses. There we go, and then I'm going to end that with a period and maybe fix my typo here, and then let's send it. So what are we doing? Actually, this stream I am working with relationships, which is chunk 5 of my databases concepts under my phase 1. When was last stream? Last stream was like yesterday at this time. Okay, that's restating the setup back to me again, not answering what I asked. I asked what the rows themselves will look like, what columns, what changes to row. I asked the rows themselves, what columns, what changes row to row, what stays the same. You gave me the conclusion, 3 rows for 3 courses without reasoning underneath it. I need the reasoning because that reasoning is the concept. Let's load all the way down and build it by hand. No SQLAlchemy, no databases. Just imagine you're literally drawing this table on paper right now. Row 1 of your students' table currently looks something like name Alex, age 21, GPA 3.9. 1 row, 1 student done. Now Alex needs to show up as enrolled in math, science, and history. 3 courses using 3 rows instead of 1. Tell me exactly what you write in the name column for each of those 3 rows and exactly what you write in some kind of courses or some kind of course column for each of those 3. Actually, write out 3 lines here. Alex course. Okay, so it's gonna be something like name equals to Alex. Okay, and then course is going to be equal to, what was the courses? Math, right? Okay, and then we're going to go in a new line and add something like name is going to be equal to Alex again. There we go, and then I'm going to add a comma. I just realized one thing. Why in the genuine world did I not forget to close my quote? This is going to be math. And then course is going to be equal to science. Okay, and then we're going to go with our final name. That is going to be equal to Alex again. And then course is going to be equal to history. There we go. And then I'm just going to go ahead and remove a space from here and hit enter. Okay, I guess now let's wait. That's it. Now you actually see it, not just say it. Look at what you wrote, what you just wrote. Name is Alex. In all three rows, the values repeat the course. The value repeats. Course is different every single row. That's the whole ball game right there. You just built by hand. Exactly what a junction table does. Now, here's the payoff question, and this is the one that actually answers what I originally asked you three turns ago. You just proved a student can appear in multiple rows, once per course. Here's the flip side. Go to the other direction now. If I asked you to write out rows for the math course showing every student enrolled in it, and let's say both Alex and a second student, Priya, are both taking math, what would those rows look like? Same format, name, course. Name is going to be equal to Alex and Priya. Course is going to be equal to math. And then let's send it. Do you know C++ or any other language other than Python? I do actually know C++, and I did have a mini VLang series as well. In my channel, if you do check my playlist out, I do have a C++ for 100 days series and a VLang for 7 days. VLang for 7 days is mini series there. That's it. Slipped back to cramming both. Oh, I actually also know Bash, if that's actually, I mean, that is technically considered a programming language because it's terminal based. That's it. Slipped back to cramping both names into one row. Same instinct we already killed a few turns ago. You proved yourself with your own hands. That's one cell holds one value name. Alex Priya breaks that rule. Apply the exact pattern. Oh, okay. So apparently... I'm going to copy that just to save time, and then I'm going to paste this here. Name Priya. Course is going to be math. Then we're going to go ahead and remove this. Oh gosh, I love saving time. Can you continue the C++ one? Actually, I don't think so because I did really work with C++ because I was under a series that was programming for 250 days, where my goal by the end of that series was to make a game in general that consisted of AI logic in it. And since I was working with making a game, C++ was by far the best language in my opinion to actually make that game. Therefore, I started working with SDL3, where I did use a lot of C++, and then I moved on to Unreal Engine, where again, I did work with more C++ and all that stuff. So there's a lot of streams on that, and I have, I don't think any detailed videos on that, but I mean, I guess I could make a few C++ tutorial videos. Later on, though, I'll have to, like, review that stuff again. But, besides the syntax and a few logic tweaks, I don't think that the languages are as different. It's just that basic Python gets very boring when we work with it a lot. There it is, clean, correct, no mixing. Now, step back and look at what's actually sitting in front of you, because you build this whole thing yourself, row by row, and it already answers the question I asked way back. You've got Alex/math, Alex/science, Alex/history, Priya/math. Notice Alex repeats across rows. Math also repeats across rows, once for Alex, once for Priya. Neither column can hold more than one value per row. You proved that yourself twice, the hard way. So here's the real question, and I want your actual reasoning this time, not a conclusion. A plain student table has one row per student. Name, age, GPA, one row, done. But what you just built has multiple rows for that same student and multiple rows for the same course. Does what you just built look like it belongs inside the existing students' table, or does it look like something else, its own separate table entirely, and why? Can you describe me your entire channel in one sentence? Okay, if I were to describe it in one sentence, it's basically, learning programming while actually no. Should I? Okay, it's hard to phrase it in one sentence. Oh god, let's think. Let me think. Um, because I did have gaming channels and tutorial videos as well, so educationally entertaining. There we go. I don't know if it's entertaining, but it's mostly educational these days because I work with programming and all that stuff and like tutorial videos. But I do have let's say some entertaining content as well. For example, that one short where I cosplayed as Shinobu. And that was really cringe, but then it was basically just for entertainment. Plus I had some gaming videos as well. Okay, that's it. Let me just go up here. Okay, a plain student table has one row per student, name, age, GPA, one row done. But what you just built was multiple rows for that same student and multiple rows for the same course. Does what you just built look like it belongs inside the existing students? Or does it look like something else, its own separate table entirely? It looks like it is a separate table entirely because um I would not um manually add math to every student when creating them. Instead, when a student is created, if they want, they can take any courses from a different, let's say, courses is table. There we go. I don't know if that made sense grammatically. I could not phrase that stuff. Okay, and can you guys believe I just came from a composition class? Don't know why the question. What question? What's your name? Did I not like answer that last stream as well as Vivek? That said, yes, that's the real reasoning, not just the conclusion, and it's correct. You independently derived why relational database split data into separate tables instead of cramming everything into one. You didn't just want to duplicate math as a hard-coded field on every single student row, you want math to exist once, somewhere else, and referenced by whoever is taking it. That instinct is literally the entire point of relational design. Good. Now, small but important correction on the wording because precision matters here. You said a different course table like it's a side thought, but it's actually the table, the rows you built by hand, Alex slash math, Priya slash math, etc. That's not the courses table itself, that's the third table. Let's nail down what's what. Students table. Student, Alex, Priya, age, GPA, no course info at all. Courses is table, just courses, math, science, history, no student info at all. The thing you built by hand, the junction table, just pairs connecting one student to one course per row. Here's the check in your own words. Why do you think third pair table needs to be a separate from both students and courses instead of being stored as an extra row inside the courses table? Because it needs to access info from both the other tables. Okay, and then let's send it. Oops. Wait, what is the name? When you say it again here, I mean, when you say it, I can't hear it. It starts with an M. Just write it down. Wait, how in the world did that sound like it started with an M? Maybe you could like go a bit back in the stream and then like replay that part. But how does it start with an M? Do you mean like my name or like something that I like read from here? Um Okay, that's it. That's on the right track, but still thin. It needs to access info from both. Is true, but it doesn't explain. But it doesn't yet explain why that requirement forces it to be its own table instead of living inside courses. Let's pressure test it with a concrete case instead of staying abstract. Say math currently has 30 students enrolled. Now imagine you tried to store that enrollment as extra rows glued onto the courses table instead of a separate junction table. Wait, hold on. That's on the right track, but still thin. It needs access to information, is true, but it doesn't explain why that requirement forces it to be its own table. Okay, say math currently has 30 students enrolled. Now imagine you try to store all enrollment info as extra rows glued onto courses table instead of a walk through it with me. What would the courses table have looked like to fit 30 students all connected to that one course, math? It would look very confusing because the table that was specifically meant for courses now consists of students, now consists of 30 students, and the rows and the courses that they took, that they take. Okay, and then let's send it. Just write it down. Your name. I just want you to write it down. It's Vivek. You could like kind of spell it out as Vivek. There we go. Okay, why did I kind of not remember the spelling? What the hell? Confusing is a feeling, not a mechanism, and I need the mechanism because that's what actually explains the rule. You're circling it without landing the punch. Let's force it with numbers since you're strong at reasoning once it's concrete instead of abstract. Courses currently has one row per course. Math is one row. Science is one row. History is one row. That's the whole table. 3 rows. Now math has 30 students enrolled using the one value per cell rule you already proved twice with your own hands. If you try to cram all 30 of those students into the same math row, how many rows would math now need? And once you answer that, what happens to science, which which has say 5 students? Does it also need the same number of rows or a different number? Math would need 30 rows and science would need 5 rows. Then I'm just gonna fix my typo real quick. I just want you to write it down. Okay, now see what that actually means. You've got the numbers right, 30 rows for math, 5 rows for science, but sit in that for 1 second. Courses were courses was supposed to be a table where one row equals to one course. Math is one course, science is one course, and you just told me math alone needs 30 rows. That's not math has 30 rows of course data. That's math typed out 30 separate times, once per enrollment student sitting in a table that's supposed to represent courses, not students. The actual course info, the name, the description, whatever gets duplicated 30 times over for no reason, and duplicated a different number of times for every other depending on how many students happen to be in it. Last question on this, and then we build it for real. Yeah, 40 minutes on stream. Given that math typed 30 times, science typed 5 times, history typed some other number, all cluttering up a table that's supposed to just be, here are the courses that exist. Is courses still doing one job it's supposed to do, or is it doing 2 jobs at once? What are the two jobs if you see? It is doing 2 jobs at once. The first job is having courses for it to be used, and the second job is getting the name of the student from a from students' table and using it to create rows. I hope that wasn't too vague. That's the mechanism. Now you've actually got it, not just the conclusion, the reason underneath it. Oh, one table, two jobs. Here's what courses exist, and here's who's enrolled in what. Cram those together, and you get duplication, clutter, and a table that can cleanly answer either any question. That's why the junction table has to be its own separate thing, not because it needs to access both, but because mixing two jobs into one table breaks the table's ability to do either job cleanly. That took 6 questions to dig out instead of 1, and that's fine. The slower, harder one understanding, and it's better than a fast guess you would have. Here's your 3 tables locked in: students, courses, enrollment. That's the real word shape of student can take many courses, and courses can have many students. 3 tables, not 2. Now, because you touch SQLAlchemy syntax, a gut check on what we're headed next. Have you ever seen foreign key before in this course, database, module, or anywhere? Yep, I have. We did work with foreign keys in SQL and also in SQL, in PostgreSQL. There we go. Good, so it's not brand new. Let's see how much actually stuck from the database module versus how much is just recognition of the term. In your own words, what does a foreign key actually do? And thinking back to enrollment table you just built by hand, row by row, where do you think the foreign key would need to show up in it? A foreign key for EIGN is used to talk to different multiple databases or tables at the same time. I don't know much about databases, just tables at the same time. And the enrollments table would need a foreign key because it has to talk to students and courses. There we go. Then I'm gonna end that with a period. Fix my typo here real quick. Fix my typo here. And let's send it. Do you like math? I absolutely hate math. But again, it really depends because I want to work with AI's brains. That's the reason I went with AI engineering. But later on, I realized that AI engineering basically is getting pre-trained models and implementing them inside of websites, softwares, and different places wherever I could implement it. However, the thing that really works with AI's brains is machine learning, but machine learning requires a lot of advanced level math, probability statistics, and just a deep understanding for all those things. So it really depends. Later on in the series where I will be going over machine learning for my next phase, that is going to be phase 2. If I worked with math and machine learning and that I kind of enjoyed it, I may eventually move on to machine learning as opposed to being an AI engineer. But that really depends, to be honest. If my brain's just exploded while learning the math, I think I'm going for AI engineering. But again, that really depends because I can't really say that stuff while really learning everything and being at phase 1, which is basically just getting me exposed to every concept that I will be working on going forth in the series or going forward in the series. Okay, that's still circling the what it takes to tables without the how, and talks to multiple tables at the same time is actually a little off, not just incomplete. Let's fix it with something concrete instead of saying abstract, since that's where you land your best answer. Go back to rows you wrote by hand, name Alex, course math. Right now, that row literally has the word Alex sitting in it and the word math sitting in it. Actual text spelled out every single row. Here's the question. What happens if a student named Alex decides to legally change his name in the students table? You'd update that one row, easy, one place done. But that word Alex is also typed out separately inside every single enrollment row he's part of. Does the update students table automatically fix the word Alex sitting inside those enrollment rows too? Or are those just separate, disconnected copies of the same text? They are separate. What are you studying in university? I'm going for a computer sciences major. Okay, because apparently you cannot really go for an AI engineering to the major unless you're in like a really expensive university where they actually do hire professors to teach about AI engineering and that give you the degree. Because specifically for AI engineering, the field changes so fast that most universities really can't keep up with the course change, schedule change, and all that stuff, the degree plan change. But going with computer science is one of the safest options here because computer science teaches you programming and how to work with computers, but not literally hardware computers. I think a little bit about RAM and all that stuff as well, but mostly about how do you program and getting all that hands-on practice. That's what AI engineers or let's say companies mostly look for the time being, because there is no specific thing that we gotta learn. Of course, there is RAG that we gotta learn about. There's LLMs. There is I think there's LangChain and all those things that you really need to learn before moving on to actually being an AI engineer or getting a job in that field. But before that, there are a lot of prerequisites that you got to really work on. And that changes constantly. Like, by God, every single day a new AI pops out. Okay, right, and that's the actual problem a foreign key solves. Not talking to tables, fixing that. Right, and that's the actual problem a foreign key solves. Not talking to tables, fixing that. Oh, I see. Okay, okay. You just found it yourself. Typing Alex as a raw text into enrollments creates a disconnected copy of that name, not a real connection to the actual students. Creating the name in students and that copy sitting in enrollment does not know or care. It's just dumb and frozen. So here's the real definition built from what you just proved. Instead of a memorized line, a foreign key does not store a copy of the data, it stores a pointer to the actual row. Instead of writing the literal word Alex into enrollment, you write something like Alex's unique ID, a reference back to his one real row in students. Change his name once in the place, and every enrollment row pointing at him automatically reflects it. Because it was never a separate copy to begin with. It's the same row, just referenced from somewhere else. Same logic applies to courses equals to math. Instead of the literal math, you store a pointer back to math's actual row in courses. Last conceptual check before we open the file and actually build this. Your enrollments table needs to reference a row in students and a row in courses. 2 pointers, not one, given that you now know about foreign keys pointing at a specific row rather than copying text. What do you think each of those 2 foreign keys would actually need to point at specifically, not the students' table in general? What specific thing about Alex would a pointer need to grab on to uniquely identify him, not as some other student? A unique ID. Exactly, that's the real answer, not a guessed one. You got that by actually reasoning through the name change problem instead of me handing you the term, a foreign key points at a primary key, so basically name. The one column guarantees to uniquely identify a single row, no duplicates, no ambiguity in your student table. That's the actual anchor. Alex's row hangs off everything in enrollment, pointing at Alex points at that, not at the word Alex. Hey bro, I'm making an intro for my Minecraft series that actually sounds really cool. You could actually, once you're done with it, either you could upload it on your channel or you could like send it in the Discord servers. I don't really have an AMV. Let me check if I have an edits section there. I'm pretty sure I do not. So maybe you could like upload the video on YouTube and then send it in the, let me get it here. Uh, Send it in the YouTube contents channel right there. I could like check it out from there. But yeah, I do not think that I have any chats for edits. Nope, I do not. Well, that's kind of sad. I should have had one. Okay, that's it. Quick flag before we move, small but real. A name in your students table might feel like it uniquely identifies a student right now. Since you've only ever had Alex and Hannah, but name is a bad primary key in general because two different students could easily share a name. Two Alexes enrolled at the same school isn't rare at all. That's exactly why real systems almost always use a dedicated auto-generated ID column instead of trusting a name to stay unique forever. File that way. We may need to touch this before chunk 5 is done, depending on how your students' table is currently keyed. Alright, concept is solid. You build the whole reasoning chain yourself. 3 tables, 1 job each, foreign keys as pointers, no copies, pointing at primary keys specifically to survive, changes like rename student. That's real understanding, not recitation. Okay, here's where we go next. Given the name as primary key flag I just raised, what should we actually do first? Writing any new table code. Before writing any new table code, go straight to building the enrollment junction table, go straight to building the course table, check what the student's current primary key actually is. We should go build the junction table first. However, I do not like the multiple choice because it sort of caps my thinking. There we go, and then I'm gonna go ahead and send it. It's on my channel, final001.avi, something the last video I have. But I have to have the speed to match my audio. My audio is 5 seconds, the video is 2 seconds. 2.6 seconds, I see. Triangulating? Okay, I guess while Claude's actually doing that, I'm just gonna be scrolling. Just kidding, not really gonna scroll. Okay, fair. And that's on me now. Not once you flagged it. I complied for a while, then skip right back to the button pattern without you asking for it back. That's exactly the kind of inconsistency I'd call out. If you did it, dropping it for a good. Open questions only from here, and I'm filling this in across sessions, not just the rest of today. Oh god. Because it's not like I hate getting multiple choice, but every once in a while I do kind of appreciate that stuff. Every time, oh hell no. Files, now, back to the actual question, and here's what I need to stop you. Here's where I need to stop you. Build the junction table first isn't right, and it's not a small miss. It breaks the actual mechanism you built yourself a few turns ago. Think about what enrollment actually needs to contain. You said yourself 2 foreign keys, 1 pointing at a row, students 1 pointing at a row courses. Here's the problem. Courses doesn't exist yet. Not hasn't been checked. It flat out doesn't exist. I meant that actually, to be honest. I'm not sure if Blender's physics engine will play nicely with a slowdown in the speed in Blender. Do you mean just slowing down a screen recording of like you building something in Blender? Does that pointer have anything real to point at? No, it does not. It was a mistake to say that we should build a junction function because I thought that we already had a courses table. I forgot that we did not create it yet. Okay, and then let's send it. But that's a real correction, Arish Rug. You didn't just say, oops, you named the actual reason you got it wrong. You thought courses already exist, and it does not. That's worth catching because it's a different kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. We've got three things that needs to happen before enrollments can exist. Built courses confirm whether student where students' current key is actually a problem and then only build the junction table on top of both. Given what you know, courses doesn't exist and students might have a name-based primary key issue. Which of those two should come first and why? Not just which one, give me the reason. Given that courses doesn't exist and students might have a name-based primary key issue, first and why? Um, Courses should come first because we need something to point towards before starting to even enroll students. Okay, and then let's send it. The intro is made in Blender. Wait. Is it like a 3D intro? Because I've never. Okay, I have seen people do a lot of cool stuff in Blender, like draw and all that. But if the intro is like 3D, like with actual blocks and like, should I say, not blocks, with actual cubes, plates, and all those stuffs and meshes in general, I think that would make more sense. But never have I ever seen an intro made in Blender. I used to think that people used to edit that stuff in like DaVinci or like, is it called a boat or something? What was the other premium editing software? That's it, correct, and that reasoning holds up. You can check whether pointing works until there's something to point at courses first. One more piece before we open the editor because I don't want to just wave off the primary key flag I raised earlier. It needs an actual answer, not a well, not a we'll get to it eventually. You haven't seen models.py in a while. Chunk 5 is a brand new territory before I show you the current student class. In your own words, what's a primary key and what do you remember, if anything, about how student class defined it back in chunk 1? It was basically a primary key is basically a check that confirms if my constraints are going well. However, in PostgreSQL, it checked for and what? So it checked for unique names, it checked for unique and null. Okay, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and send it. There we go. It's 3D intro, but I don't have blocks and shit. I didn't import or make a world into Blender. My editing is Kdenlive. My 3D software is Blender. My audio is Audacity or LMMS. But most of the time, Cadence Live's audio plugins are sufficient for me. I see. It's all 100% free, as in the freedom as Wells price and open source. Yeah, when you said the 100% free stuff, I was like, wait, isn't Audacity like paid for? Okay, that's not. Okay, that's not what a primary key is. You're describing something closer to a general constraint check and is mixing up terms in a way I need to untangle before we go further because this is foundational and it's about a matter for the course enrollments. I'm gonna like override that message. I want to save some time. I'm gonna go to my markdown files and we're going to go to our database notes. Primary key combines not null plus unique and marks the column as the row's official identifier. Primary key rechecks both conditions from scratch. It doesn't trust or reference any not null plus unique constraint the column might already have. It re-verifies everything itself every time. Okay, primary key re-verifies verifies everything. Hmm. Uh, Free as in freedom, but it happens to be free in cost too. I see. Audacity is 100% free and open source. I thought that you need to like pay for stuff in Audacity. Huh. So as my other softwares, my render times per frame are 1.7 seconds to 5 per frame at 30 FPS, which isn't terribly bad. Cycles would have taken way longer. I see. Oh my god, kill it. Oh my whip. I really like this is no point. Huh. What's that mean? Okay, we verifies everything is a definition. It's a phrase that sounds like it might be related, but it doesn't actually say what primary key is or does. This is exactly a case where technical explanation isn't landing, so let's drop the abstract wording completely and go back to something you've already built with your own hands. Look at these rows. 3 rows, same student. If I ask you, find me Alex's row in table like this, there'd be a problem. Which one? All 3 says Alex. Now compared to original students, table just students, not enrollment, which where each row is 1 student. Alex's age, 21, GPA 3.9. Given that difference in the students table specifically, what do you think a primary key's actual job is? Not a definition. You have to remember, reason it out. Okay, hold on. Let me just check something. What is the job of a primary key? I'm just getting a refresher. Primary key uniquely identifies each row in a table, ensuring data integrity and enabling insufficient data retrieval, effective data retrieval. Okay, so primary key's job is to. I just read it, didn't I? Audacity is under the CPLv2 or later license. I haven't really heard of that stuff. What does a license like do, or what effects does it have? Oh, hold on, let me check that again. Each record in a database table is to identify each data as this record in a table and make sure that the data retrieval is effectively being done. Oh, okay, I want to fix my typo identify. Okay, and then this is going to be retrieval, RETRIVEL, and then effectively EFFECTIVELY. Okay, and then let's send it. That's real, genuinely closer, and the uniquely identified each record as the part is correct, and actually the core of it, but you tackle make sure data retrieval is effectively being done at the end, and that part isn't quite right is vague, even though I can tell if you actually believe it, or it's a filter bolted onto a correct first half. I need it stripped down to just the part stated cleanly, no extra addressing drop these taken off completely, just answer this a primary key uniquely identifies each record. Say it back to me in your own sentence, one job only, nothing else attached to it. Huh. APRIMARY. A primary key identifies every row in a table and make sure that it is correct. I don't know how to phrase this stuff. I'm rendering to an AVI, or do you still use AVI or even know what an AVI is? Actually, I've never used an AVI unless have used it, but I've never heard of the terminology AVI. And I'm also rendering on the new rig. That actually sounds really cool. I meant laptop. I'm rendering on the new laptop. Oh, that also sounds kind of cool. Still tacking something extra on, make sure that is correct, isn't part of what a primary key does, and I think it's a leftover habit of wanting the definition to sound complete rather than being complete. A primary key doesn't check to verify correctness or anything, it does exactly one job. Let's isolate it down, but that one job, fill in the blanks, nothing more. A primary key's job is to identify unique records. That's it. Oh god. It's one with an RTX 4050, the one I started the world that I got 8 iron on. That actually sounds really cool. Okay, that's it. Clean, one job, stated correctly, nothing extra hanging off it. Took 4 passes to strip away. So it basically just identifies unique records. But that's the real definition now, not a memorized sounding phrase. That was memorized, trust me. You built it by comparing the table with duplicate names against one without. Now, let's actually check chunk 1 instead of guessing. Here's models.py. Okay. Stands from chunk 1. That confirms that your actual models.py lives on your Windows machine. It's not environment here. I don't have live access to your local files. I only have the sandbox container, so I can't go recheck it myself. You'll need to open and paste it here and Python files. Show me student class specifically. Whichever line the primary key, something like a column marked, okay? I guess I'm gonna hit Control S to save the code here, and then I'm gonna go to database, go there. I'm gonna go ahead and close my markdown files and open my model.py. I'm gonna go ahead and copy that, and then we're gonna go ahead and paste this. We're an hour in this stream and I haven't worked on a single question. I'm getting 60 megabytes for just 5 seconds of video. Wait, actually? Isn't that like a lot? Isn't that like a lot of space? Because like 1,000 megabytes is like 1 gigabyte. 5 seconds is 60. 10 seconds is going to be 120. 180 is going to be 15 seconds. 180 plus 180 is 360 is going to be 30 seconds. 360 plus 360 is 720. It's going to be a minute. 720 a minute. 720. You know what? Never mind. It's pretty average. I guess that's the correct use of using AVI, MP, MJPEG, or MJPEG. Basically, a bunch of JPEGs in a folder, except it's contained inside an AVI file. Oh, I see. You know what? I actually think that I've heard of AVI files now in while I work with it on DaVinci, or like any Should I say exporting related stuff or something like that? I gotta fact check that. Okay, there it is, confirmed in black and white. Look at line 11. Named maps. Name. This data type is map string, where I create a column where primary key is true and nullable is false. Name is your primary key. Exactly the flag I raised a while back, and now it's not a hypothetical. It's sitting right there in real code. Here's the question I want you to reason out using the exact definition you just built 2 turns ago, not a new one. You said primary keys' job is to identify unique records. Right now, name is doing that job. Walk me through a real scenario where a name fails at that job, where using name as the primary key would break the uniquely identified promise. Be specific. Not just two people can have the same name. It's in the abstract. Actually, describe what goes wrong in the table itself. 60 megabytes for just 5 seconds is crazy since the 3D. I did so many basic. I bet H.264 gonna make 5 or 10 MBs. I thought that the latest version that people use for like a better is it color quality or like render quality? It's H.265, but that's I think that's only in Nvidia, right? But RTX is Nvidia. But I mean H.264 is a heavy codec. That actually does make sense. I used to use H.264 too, but then I watched like a video where they were like, if you can go to H.265, I clearly couldn't say the difference between the two. Okay, there it is, confirmed black and white. Did I not read this? You said a primary key's one job is to identify unique records. Right now, name is doing that job. Walk me through a real scenario where name fails at that job, where using name as the primary key would break the uniquely identified promise. Be specific, not just two people could have the same name in the abstract. Actually describe what's going on in the table itself. Okay, wait, what does it mean? Um when the names are not a string. There we go. That's not it at all, and I want to flag why that's off before you build it. Before you build on it, name being a string versus not being a string has nothing to do with the uniqueness. A column can be any data type and still fail at being unique. You're reaching for a technical sounding reason instead of the one you already reasoned out yourself twice earlier in this exact conversation. Go back to something you already said out loud a while ago. You told me yourself two Alexes enrolled at the same school isn't rare at all. Wait, that was actually me who said that, flagging it as a risk. But right after you independently reasoned through the exact same shape of problem with enrollments, 3 rows all said Alex, and you couldn't tell them apart by the name alone, so you don't invent a new answer. Reuse that one. If a second row student enrolls and their name also applies to be Alex, also happens to be Alex, what breaks in students' table? Walk through it concretely. What would session.get student Alex even do if there were 2 rows named Alex? Nothing, to be honest. They both would have different unique IDs. There we go. H.265 is heavier on the CPU/GPU depending if you accelerate, decode/encode or not, and from my experience, it's marginal difference, but way heavier. Take what I said with a grain of salt, of course, and H.265 doesn't magically make your video better. It doesn't make colors better or any of that. It basically lets you reduce mosquito and macro block noise at a given bitrate. I see, but if you bitrate starve your video, say let's say 1080 p60 at 700 kbps, then it won't do shit to make it better. That actually, yeah, that makes sense because Let's be honest, if you're using a better codec and your video quality is like 1080p, which is still kind of good that I'm currently using. Actually, I'm using 1440, but 1080p or let's say 720p. Having higher bitrate is not going to do anything. You could increase your sharpness, but it's going to make you look really, really grainy. But if you have like a 4K or a 8K camera, then you could see the difference actually. Well, not a massive difference, but there would still be a lot of difference. That said, you just described the fix, not the failure. You jump straight to they'd have different unique IDs, but does the thing we're trying to figure out whether student has actually right now, look back at the code you pasted. There's no separate ID column at all. Name isn't sitting alongside a unique ID. Name is the primary key, the only one doing the job by itself. So drop the fix for a second and just sit in the broken state. Okay, hold on. Let me say something like it is really hard to answer these questions with no hands-on practice. We have been going on and on for the past hour with just text and theoretical examples instead of actual code examples or literal visual scenarios. By visual, I do not mean drawings. I mean like um code examples that I can relate to as opposed to just words. Okay, and then I'm just gonna fix a couple of typos. I usually type this out properly, but by God, we've been going on for so long without doing a single practice question. We did not do a single practice question. Okay, and then let's send it. Uh, I meant it as if you give your video barely no bitrate, it won't do shit, but if you give it a higher, but still constrained bitrate, like 5 to 8 Mbps, it will do about 15 to 30 times better. Huh. I do give my streams like 8,000 bit rates for vertical and 6,000 for horizontal. I don't think it made a difference to be honest. H.264 at making your video cannot have mosquito noise or blocking slash smoothing artifacts. Wait, by mosquito noise, do you mean like grainy voice or something? Because I think that's what Mike does, right? But you can give voice transcription in chat for Claude, saves time. You know what? I would actually do that. Like just say it out to Claude, but I kind of want to get better at typing as well. Okay, alright, and that's fair. Real complaint. Naughty, make it easier complaint. You've been running one teaching mode for too long without switching it up. Complaint per the actual rule I hold myself to. When a technical explanation doesn't land, drop to a live isolated minimal code experiment instead of a second round of pure talk. I've been stuck in verbal only mode for way too long this session, and that's on me, not on you. Let's fix it right now with actual code. This is a throwaway. SQLite in memory database, not your real my database. Nothing touches your actual PostgreSQL setup. It's just an isolated experiment. Same student shape you already have. Name as the only primary key, and I'm trying to insert two different students who both happen to be named Alex. Before I run it, plain words prediction. Full state, not just the only thing that changes. What do you think happens to that second session.commit runs? Does it insert fine like the first one, or does something break? And if something breaks, what kind of thing do you expect to see? A clean second row, an error, or something else? Okay, I do not get what is Slot trying to say here now. Google JPG mosquito noise compression is really subtle in the examples, but you can see it in videos a lot. I see. Okay, hold on. I do not understand. What are we working on? Like, are we even on the same page? Question mark. Huh. I'm so confused. Okay, but you can see the select images when you search the term I gave. Okay. I'm so confused. Like, I'm pretty sure that it's not me who's not been focusing on what's Claude saying. Something does not feel right here. Hmm. Maybe if you practice questions, all that it would take for me, right? I guess Claude is untangling. I'm not on thinking as well. I just need to make sure I don't run out of my chat limit. Yes, good. And thank you for saying that instead of pretending you were tracking, blah, blah, blah. Here's the actual map from the top. Big goal today, SQLAlchemy Chunk 5. Yes, we need to be done with that. We figured out students and courses is many to many. So it needs a third table enrollment sitting between them. We figured out foreign keys and set enrollment are pointers, not copies. They point at the primary key in another table. That raised a real question. Does students even have a solid primary key to point at? So I had to pull up your actual models. Turns out, yes, there is a problem. Name only is the only primary key on students right now. No separate ID column exists. We spent long stretch trying to get you to explain in words why that's bad. That went in circles and got too abstract. So here's the plain answer. No more abstracting it from you. I'll just tell you straight. If two students are both named Alex, SQLAlchemy can't tell them apart because it has nothing to identify a row by. Name is doing double duty as both the students' name, and the only thing that proves this row is unique. And it can't reliably do both. The script I just wrote is the concrete hands-on way to see that break happen instead of talking about it. Same student shape as yours, save throwaway. Does that reconnect it for you? You good to jump into an actual running script now and seeing the live results? Yes, now that you told me, it makes so much more sense because previously I did not know where to begin answering from. However, this is so much more clear. There we go. I wanted to add a period. Hey man, back again today for a few minutes. Yeah, hiding Sartik. I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, let's see. Good, that's genuinely useful feedback, not just okay, continue. The problem wasn't the concept, it was that I stripped away the anchor point and left you guessing where to even start from. Lesson noted, okay. Let's run it now. What are we running? That's not the sandbox container of mine. No PY alias, unlike your Windows setup. Oh god, no wonder I'm working with garbage Max. Max doesn't do squat in my opinion. I'm better with extra. Strip away all the traceback noise and just actually what matters. Okay, wait. Hey man, quick summary, please. Basically, let me actually grab my roadmap. It's gonna be like 100 times easier to show that way. There we go. So basically, I'm currently working on a series which you probably do know because I remember you coming here before. It's AI engineering for 365 days, or my goal by the end of this series will be to make an agentic AI And I'm currently on phase one. This is the database category. That is my final category. And under the databases category, I'm under the final subcategory of SQL Alchemy's ORL, which in total consists of 6 chunks. I was done with the 4th chunk that was covered last stream. This stream, I'm working on the 5th chunk, that is relationships. And if I'm done with relationships, next stream, I'm going to be working with the final chunk, which is going to be something which I don't know yet. And then we're going to work on our first ever mini project of this series, that is going to be building a fully automated web scraper that runs daily. And then later we just move on to phase 2, that is math and machine learning. That was basically a whole summary besides going up with Claude. Okay, let me say, so what are we working on a question? And if yes, can I get the instructions question mark? Guys, ignore my grammar here. I did not really add much. Yeah, that error you just watched happen is there was no error that I watched happen. Oh, my bad. There it is. It broke it. What broke? Exactly the way we've been circling around the last 20 minutes, except now you actually see it. What do I see? Strip away all the traceback and noise, just 2 lines. Wait, I think you are working with some of the contents internally and predicting what is it, predicting what am I doing, and the errors that I get. Save this in your memory. Uh Ask me what give me a question to work on, and then ask me to send you my code once I am done, and check if my output is correct by asking me the output as well. For the time being, ask me to create a courses table, and then we move on from there. Guys, what is wrong with today's Claude's chat? And yesterday we worked on could create, read, update, and delete. Oh god. Guys, am I being the tutor here or am I being tutored here? This is one problem with Claude as well. There are a few chats where it's really good and there are a few chats where it's absolutely garbage. I wouldn't say it's garbage, but come on, like I have been working for the past hour and 30 minutes now and we didn't work on a single question. Good clarification, worth being precise. I wasn't predicting or guessing at your code. That error was real from the actual SQL database I built and ran into my own separate sandbox. Files here to your ask. Build a course class in models.py. Right below student, following the same declarative style you already used for student. Same mapped column pattern. Requirements. Dunder table equals courses. A column to hold the courses' name. Example, math science. A primary key. And here's the one thing I actually want you thinking about while you write it, given what you just watched happen. Student.name colliding. Decide for yourself whether courses should use its name as the primary key too, or something else your reasoning. Primary key and nullable. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and grab plot in the other window as the reference for the question, and then I'm in my models.py. We're gonna go ahead and just exit that. We're gonna go ahead and close this stuff. We're gonna go there. And then we're gonna go ahead and create, what was the instructions? A courses class. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a class called courses, which is gonna be deriving from my base class. That is my declarative base. And then we're gonna go with something like Dunder table name is going to be equal to courses. I'm gonna go with course, not courses, plural. And then we're gonna go ahead and add our course data type. Oh, we call it to holy course name, so this is going to be course underscore name. Example math, example science, student name column, and that's pretty much it. I'm gonna set this equal to map for my data type, because I'm using type hinting, that is going to be a string. My courses must be a string, and that is going to be equal to mapped underscore column. Map this stuff inside of my in inside of my database. There we go. Yeah, create some MD files that you can always attach to context, because you know more or less your table structure and relations remain the same. That'll make it faster. That does actually make sense. I have a whole bunch of markdown files here that consist of like almost everything that I've been working on so far ever since I knew about the MD files. But after every topic, I ask for a markdown file for that topic. Otherwise, it tries to interactively go back to where you first declared structures. That does make sense. Today's cloud was so bothersome. Oh my gosh. Primary underscore key is going to be equal to true here. Okay, and then I don't want my course to be empty, so I'm going to set nullable nullable equals to false. And that's about it, right? I don't think there's anything else. No return none, nothing else like that. Control A, Control C, Control S. I'm going to copy that. We're going to grab plot here, and then we're going to go ahead and paste it. Here. Good faith effort. You actually made a real decision on the primary key instead of copy pasting students' pattern blindly. That's the right instinct even before I check if it's the strongest choice, but hold on, before we call this done, you asked me to check your output there, and there isn't one yet. You said run your files. Right while you check that, two real things to flag on the code itself. The logic level, not cosmetic. Under table equal course, singular, look at student. Right above, students, plural. That's not a huge deal on its own, it's just an inconsistency, and table naming inconsistency is exactly the kind of thing that causes confusion later when you're writing queries and I can't remember which table is singular versus plural. Worth fixing. Now while it's cheap, course underscore name as the primary key. Same question I asked you to sit with. Is a course name actually guaranteed unique? Real world check. Could a school ever have two different sections of the same courses, like two separate math listings, different professors, different times, where the name repeats? I'm infested with bugs here. Where the name repeats, but they're genuinely different course offerings. If yes, you got the exact same collision risk you watched out earlier. Break students, go run it, paste me our real terminal code. Right, this is going to be courses, Control S. And then we're going to get our this thing up here. I'm going to go ahead and change my directory to Python files. There we go. Now that I'm in my Python files, There we go. I'm gonna go ahead and run this. So py models.py. Okay, the output succeeded because I did not really find anything. However, I did not commit anything either. I don't really think I need to commit for structure. Clean runs, no errors, no outputs, which has actually existed. What happened? Here's the stuff, but you skipped past the real question I asked, so let's not move on until you answer it. Is course underscore name as the primary key a real risk or not? Could two different courses offerings, same subject, different name, section, ever legitimately share the same name in a real school? Honest call. It cannot. And I also changed my dunder table name equals to courses. Oh yeah, also add something like a minimal change to make it correct, otherwise it keeps suggesting these advices. That actually does make sense. Okay, good. Table's name is consistent now and it cannot is the right call. Backed by real reasoning, you're thinking about the actual course offerings, not just tables, and correctly ruling out the conclusion risk. That's the same muscle you used on student. Applied correctly a second time without me having to walk you through it again. One thing still worth naming honestly, since I don't let it slide just because your final answer landed right. You said it cannot meaning course names are safe to use as a unique key, but real school genuinely do have multiple sections of the same course, different professors or time, same names. So the fully rigorous answer is actually it can in general. You're just choosing to treat it as safe for the specific simplified version of your database, which is a fine scope decision for a learning project worth knowing, different yada yada. Given that, do you want to keep course name as the primary key? Treating it as a deliberate simplification for this project, or would you rather add a separate ID column, Rona, while we're already in there? Same way we think about doing for students eventually. I think we should create an ID column. However, would it not work without it? Because primary underscore key does create a unique ID. I'm rendering the intro, but with 80 physics steps instead of 40. For Rev, Blender uses 10 or so by default. Hopefully, it won't make the object clip through again. I see. Bro, your viewers are dequeezing, man. Actually, that's what live streams are about. Why? Guys, what do you mean, why? In live streams, it's actually never really a guarantee for viewers and all that stuff. Because it's mostly because people watch the content that they really enjoy watching, and that for the time being, I am just working with learning stuff and all that. Okay, man, quite late dropping off. Please do let me know what time you're coming on tomorrow. I'll catch you tomorrow. Honestly, the most guaranteed time that I'll be streaming is 2 p.m. CST, Central Standard Time. But based on my schedule, it might be a bit earlier or a bit later. It really depends, because I do come from college and then I eat something and then I start streaming and all that stuff. And once I'm done streaming, I do work on my college stuff again. So that's basically a hard choice to give like a specific timing. But yeah, 2 p.m. CST is the safest time. And I do actually mention everyone on my Discord server whenever I go live. So you guys could either turn on the notifications for my channel or also join the Discord server with the notifications turned on, of course. That's a real genuinely good question, and you're not accepting add an ID because I suggested it. You're checking whether it's actually necessary. Let's separate two things that are mixing together because they sound similar but aren't the same. Primary underscore key equals to true does not create a unique value out of nothing. It enforces that whatever value you put there must be unique. It's a rule, not a generator. Right now, course underscore name is your primary key, which means SQLAlchemy will enforce no two rows can share the same course underscore name. But you are still the one supplying the value by typing it yourself every time. It doesn't invent a new unique number for you automatically just because you marked it. So here's the real question underneath your question. Without a dedicated ID column, would course underscore name alone technically work as a primary key enforcing uniqueness or not? It would not, because I do not think that I can use or see the unique ID created by primary key. I think I can though. Yo, I hope you get successful, man. I appreciate you, Prem. That actually means the world to me, guys. Hmm. Hopefully it won't make the objects go through again. I forgot to bake it. It's so choppy. Oh no. I have to bake it then render again. Oh god, guys, I remember working with that stuff. Okay, it was pretty fun to make the models, but the stuff after was absolutely awful. I already rendered 3 times. This is the 4th time. No. I can tell that that sounds really frustrating. What the hell? Okay, that's not quite right, but it's a really understandable mix-up. You're mixing up two different SQLAlchemy features that both live on mapped underscore column and they never happen to sound related. Marking a column primary underscore key equals to true doesn't automatically generate anything for you. It just enforces uniqueness on whatever value gets put there. Like we've just established, whenever you can see it isn't actually the issue at all. The part, it's a bit of a red herring. Course underscore name right now marked primary underscore key equals to true is fully visible. You typed it, you can see it, you can query it. That's not the problem. Here's the real answer to my question. Course underscore name alone would technically still work as a primary key. It enforces uniqueness on a text value just fine. Same mechanism protecting student.name right now. So if it already works, why bother adding a separate ID at all? Would technically still work as primary key and enforce a uniqueness. Okay, that does actually make sense. Try this concretely instead of abstractly. Since that's where you land the best answers. Imagine 2 years from now, your school renames a course intro to programming becomes programming fundamentals. If course underscore name is the primary key and every enrollment row pointing at that course is storing a foreign key that literally points at the text intro to programming, what happens to all those existing enrollment rows once the name changes? Their course names change as well. The 4 times should be the charm. If it isn't, I will throw out my PC out the window. Oh god. Guys, actually I think 3rd time was the charm, but since the 3rd time was cooked, I pray for the 4th time. I already rendered 3 times. All this trouble from the physics engine not linking slowing down time. Guys, I know how long that stuff takes. Okay, the answer says their course name changed too. But that's actually not possible, and pinning down why reveals the real problem. There is one course table with one per row. When you rename intro to programming fundamentals, you update that one row one time in courses. The question is, what happens to the other rows? The ones in enrollment sitting off in a completely different table that were storing the literal text intro to programming as their pointer to that course. Those rows don't know the rename happened. They don't recognize it's connected to the real course row. They just have an old copy of the text sitting frozen inside them. So after the rename, does enrollment still correctly point at the row renamed course, or does it just have a bunch of dead text that no longer matches? It points to the renamed row. Hmm. That answer is wrong, and it's actually the exact opposite of what's really happening, which is important because this is the whole reason the problem exists in the first place. Let's be precise. Enrollments does not have a live connection to courses that automatically updates. It stored a literal copy of the text into programming, frozen at that moment that row was written. When you rename the course in courses, that text sitting inside enrollments doesn't magically follow along and update itself. Nothing is watching it or syncing it. So courses now says programming fundamentals. Enrollment says intro to programming unchanged because nobody touched those rows. Those two values no longer match anything in courses. The exact same broken copy you already found yourself with Alex's name several turns ago. That's the real reason to add separate ID column, and auto-generated ID never changes. No matter what you rename the course to, enrollments would point at ID instead of, oh, I see. Go ahead, add that ID column to course now auto-generated primary key. You've already seen that shape of mapped column. Oh god. And should the ID be a string or an integer? Good question, and that's genuinely not obvious. Let's think through it, not just pick it. Not a syntax question, a design. What does ID actually do? Its only job is a unique handle stuff, blah blah blah. An integer just counts up 1, 2, 3. A string, okay, which line up with what we've been saying ID actually job is. ID should be a string. String isn't right. And I want to catch this before it goes up to your code. You actually already told me the reasoning that disapproves your own answer. Just one message ago, you said the whole point of an ID is that it counts up automatically. So it's an integer. Oh, so it is an integer. An integer auto increments. Yes, integer auto incrementing. ID mapping primary key true. That's a no nullable needed. Primary key can be nullable anyways. Okay, I can actually type this out if I wanna, but I'm just gonna paste it to save some time. Here we go. Let me go ahead and paste it here real quick, and then say output. For my output, I'm gonna copy that and then let's paste it again. Uh. Are you kidding me? Oh god. My bad. Well, my mistake there. Let me just send this here. There we go. Now we copy this. We hit Control S, we paste this, we hit enter. Why do I feel that we ran into an error? I definitely ran into an error, did I not? I definitely did. There we go. Okay, so now we're gonna go with Control A, Control C, copy that. Oh yeah, you're hiding observer, appreciate you joining the stream. There we go, and then we're gonna go here and then say output it really worked. Let's copy that. I'm gonna grab this here. Guys, basic syntax is out here, and then I'm gonna paste it. Yo, bro, what's up, Calspin here? Okay, clean run again, no errors, but you left both course underscore name and ID marked as primary key, two primary keys on one table that runs without error. But it's nothing what we actually landed on. We agreed ID would be one doing the uniqueness job. Now, having two isn't harmless by default. It means SQL treats them as composite key. both together, not either one alone, which is in the design you reasoned your way into. Go back to the actual question I asked you last message, which you skipped. Now the ID is handling uniqueness. Should course name key primary key? It should not, because we have a separate ID. Okay, ID alone, yada yada. Okay, alright. There we go. I'm gonna go with Control A, Control C, copy that. Let's go ahead and grab this, paste this, and then say, well, I ran it, but okay, that's correct. Ran clean, we stand right now. That's solid point if you want to break for coursework, or we can even keep pushing to the junction. I want to be done with the entire chunk 5 today, so I am ready. Yeah, I'm not stopping till I'm not done with this whole thing. That's the energy I want to hear. Alright, we're not skipping, even though I got a freaking quiz tomorrow. Solid stopping point. We're not stopping, solid stopping point. We're finishing the chunk. Let's map exactly what's left. No wasted motion, enrollments left, actual relations left, blah blah blah. Fix primary key or rebuild enrollment circle. And it directly affects how foreign keys gets written fixed. Students' primary keys is first, or build enrollment first in circle. Either one technically works, but one of them means writing enrollment's foreign key twice. Wait, what do you mean? There we go. Alright, let me slow down and unpack it instead of assuming you're tracking my shorthand. Here's the answer. Here's the actual choice I was pointing towards. Students' primary key is currently name, and we already proved that's broken. Two Alex's would collide. At some point, we need to fix that. Probably the same way we just fix courses. Add an auto incrementing ID. Make that the primary key instead of name. Separately, enrollments, the junction table needs a foreign key that points at students' primary key, whatever that ends up being. So the timing question is just, do we fix students first? So enrollment foreign keys points at the new ID column from the start, or do we build enrollments now pointing at name? No, we fix students first. Let's fix students first. There we go. Okay, good call. That's the right order. No waste to rework the diff shown in just my own earlier rights landing. Nothing external changed there, so nothing to reconcile. Moving on. Same pattern we just used on courses applied to student now. Add an auto incrementing ID mapped integer yada yada to students' class and remove primary key equals to true from name. And keep name itself and strip its primary key status. Same move as we did in course name. One real wrinkle here that didn't exist with courses that I want you thinking about it before you write anything. My database already has a real row in it. Alex committed sitting in your actual PostgreSQL table right now. Course was brand new. Empty. No existing data to worry about. Student is not empty. Given that once you change the primary key structure and return your model, do you think Alex's existing row in that real database automatically gets a new ID value assigned to it, or do you think something else needs to happen for that existing row to catch up to the new structure? We need to commit it. Isn't quieted and I want to catch the stuff. We are reaching for a familiar word, commit from chunk 4, but it's landing on the wrong problem. Session.commit is for inserting and updating rows through Python code, you write it, it doesn't radioactively reshape its structure. Here's the actual thing I was pointing at. You're about to change what students' primary key even is from now to a brand new ID column that doesn't exist yet. Alex's rows is already sitting in the real my database table written under the old structure with no ID value at all. So think concretely. If you add a new ID, int mapped at column key to students class and just rerun your file, does it automatically reach into the real already existing thing? Guys, my PC just crashed. Hold on. I'm just gonna restore everything real quick. We're gonna grab that there. We're gonna grab all that stuff there, and then we're gonna grab that there too. And now I'm gonna go to my main camera. There we go. And then I'm just gonna go to webcam properties, configure video. I'm gonna change my brightness to 18, contrast to 135, saturation to 148. And guys, this is so annoying. This is the first time in a long time when my PC crashed twice in a row. 141, and then we're gonna go here. This is going to be -6. I'm gonna hit apply, and then I'm gonna hit OK, and then we're gonna go with OK. This is gonna be RGB. That is gonna be this, there, and that's already on. I'm gonna go back here. Let's change the exposure to -7. There we go. Okay, that's why my stream freezed up. Are you ending? Actually, I'm not ending just yet. I want to be done with this entire topic before I really end off. Because it just feels like I'm haven't done anything much because I need to start with my phase 2 soon as well, and that can't really be ending this soon. Here we go. Even though every bone in my body is saying me to end the stream right now, I'm not used to streaming this much these days. Okay, that said, why in the genuine world is this stuff so bright? Am I like... It's not that bright, to be honest. What's wrong here? Let's increase the brightness there, maybe? No? You know what? Fine, that's fine. I'm gonna go to my gameplay screen. There we go. Okay, let's lock in. I want to lock in here. I want to be done. I got a freaking quiz tomorrow, and it's already 5 p.m. We need to commit isn't quite right, and I want to catch this now before we go there. Okay, I read this part. So think correctly if you added a new mapped ID. Does that automatically reach into the real already existing PostgreSQL table? It will reach to the existing PostgreSQL table. There we go. Oh, that's not right either. Oh god, guys, why can I not focus? I did the math. My new laptop has 144 DPI and the average phone has about 700 DPI. DPI meaning PPI meaning pixels per inch. Yeah, I remember working with DPIs or learning about it back when I was playing Valorant, and that I have a whole DPI button in my mouse as well. But I never thought of DPI as PPI, pixels per inch. Changing Python class definition never reaches out the modified existing on its own table. SQLAlchemy table does not exist. Oh, God. It'll still be exactly as it was. Name as the only often ID column. Okay. You know what? Actually, it's getting so hard to really understand this part. This is genuinely new territory. First time your student class needs to change after real data existing in the hood. Before I show you, given that class change alone won't touch the real table, what do you think actually needs to happen to make my database's real student match the new class? Think back to chunk 1. I would need to update my database. It's the right direction. Without the mechanism, let's land the actual answer because you've genuinely already lived through those ones before. The thing is, I'm too exhausted to think right now. I just came from freaking college. How did you achieve such long sessions on free Claude plan? I do not know myself, guys. My Claude honestly hardly reaches this chat limit. Like what? I've been constantly chatting for the past 2 hours though, without really doing anything much, just chatting back to back. And yeah, I think I still didn't reach my chat limit, or maybe on the stream when I reach my chat limit. Update my database is close, but still too vague is the right direction without the mechanism. Let's land the actual answer because you've genuinely already lived through this. Think back to chunk 1 when student was a brand new. My database had nothing in it yet. What actual line of code do you run to make the real table come in existence in PostgreSQL? Create table my database. Nope, 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 nope. That was not something I added. Oh god, I added this. In my session.py, I went with create engine. This created me my table. Oops, let me go there. I write 3 input and got 90% of daily. Wait, really? Is it because, let's see. Is it because you reached your chat limit just a while ago and then you started writing with it again, or like, and then you just came back to it as soon as it said like wait until like 1 p.m. You came back 1 p.m. You wrote like 3 inputs and again reach your chat limit, or are you using the same exact chat? Because using the same exact chat costs, let's say, should I say 75% more tokens than if you go to a new chat and actually talk. Let me just send this real quick though, because every time I send a message, Claude looks at my message after reading our entire conversation from chat 1 till the end of the chat. If that makes any sense. It iterates through the entire chat, so that's what costs a lot of tokens too. That's exactly the right code, base.metadata.create engine all, and you correctly pulled it up from memory instead of guessing a new syntax, but here's the exact same trap as students currently. Notice what I just told you a moment ago, create underscore all only builds tables that doesn't exist yet. It skips tables that are already there. So it sits in that students already exist in my database. If you rerun base.metadata engine right now, does it fix students' primary key structure, or does it silently skip student entirely? Same way it would skip course if you ran it twice. It would fix the primary key issue because it would update the database. Since I would remove primary key from name and add an ID. So new ID will be added and primary key constraint will be gone. There we go. Oh, God. That answer is wrong on the mechanism and is actually the direct opposite of what we just established 2 turns ago. We're stopping on because this you're predicting something you already told me is false. You said it in your own words, the create underscore skip tables that are already there. That was correct. Now you're saying rerunning it would fix students' primary key. Here's the concrete mechanism. Since guessing is on landing, create checks. Does a table with the name already exist? If yes, it does nothing to it. Doesn't touch columns, doesn't add or remove constraints, doesn't even look at whether the student matches. It just moves on. It only builds tables from a blank state. Students already exist, so rerunning it changes exactly 0 things about the real table. No new ID column appears, no primary key constraint gets removed, nothing. This is real limitation of SQLAlchemy's basic tooling, and it's actually a well-known problem in the real world. Changing a table's structure after It already has data in it. Needs a different tool entirely. Quick honest check. Does the term migration, as in database migration, ring a bell? It does not. Good honest answer, no fakes recognition. Keep that up, full fetch, blah blah blah. A new concept. A migration is a track step-by-step set of instructions for catching a database's structure. After it already has real data in it, adding a column, removing one, changing a primary key. That kind of thing without destroying what's actually there instead of a primary key, that kind of thing without destroying was already there instead of delete the whole table and rebuild it from scratch, which would obviously wipe out Alex's row. A migration says something closer to add this new ID column, fill it in for existing rows, then remove the old primary key constraint from names step by step, data preserving and critically reversible if something goes wrong. You've actually already seen the name of the tool for this sitting right in your own curriculum map. This is exactly what Chunk 6 migrations Alembic is for. It's not a coincidence. Migrations comes right after relationships. That's this exact problem. I need to change the table's structure without nuking the real data is precisely why chunks exist. So here's a real honest fork in the road and I want your actual call on it. What do you think? Option 1, since my database of students has only one real row, Alex, low stakes, we could just manually drop and rebuild students from scratch right now, except losing Alice's row temporarily and re-adding him after. Fast but a little bit of shortcut pace the real way. We treat it as a preview into chunk 6 territory and do it properly with a migration tool even though the chunk isn't officially started yet. Would it make sense to pause chunk 5, work with chunk 6, and then get back to chunk 5, complete it and chunk 6 at the same time, but in a different stream? Okay. That's actually a smart, realistic call, not a shortcut, a genuine scope decision. Well, I guess no wonder I was making so many mistakes because it's probably consisting of chunk 6 too that I did not really work with. Pausing chunk 5 midstream to jump into unstarted 6 in the same session isn't the same thing as finishing what you set out to do today. Letting it close out chunk 6 and the rest of chunk 5 together is a dedicated future session, respect, blah blah blah. So here's where we leave today, okay, blah blah blah. Okay, that was pretty much it. I'm gonna go to my main camera. And wait, why did the stuff get too dark? What the hell? Hold on. I'm gonna change this to -6, but that makes it too bright. Like, what the hell? That's okay. I'm just gonna decrease this a little bit. There we go. Okay, alrighty guys, so basically that was pretty much it for this stream. Yeah, I have lost a bunch of stamina as opposed to my previous streams. I just streamed for like 2 hours and now, 10 minutes now, or about 2 hours and 10 minutes, and I'm already beat. Also, because probably I'm not working with any actual topics, rather I'm working with learning stuff, and that I just came from a class as well. That said, if you guys did enjoy my content, or if you guys did enjoy the stream, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, notifications turn on, and if you guys did enjoy my content, /videos, /live streams, make sure to share my channel, because like helps my algorithm sharing, makes you smile, and subscribe, and share on top. That said, I did not really complete my chunk 5 today, but I will be working on chunk 6 next stream. Once I'm done understanding the migrations of this topic, I'm going to be moving back to chunk 5, and then I'm going to go ahead and let's say complete chunk 5, continue, and hopefully finish chunk 6 as well. And by the end of my 3rd stream, which is going to be after 2 days, I will start working on my mini project, which is going to be building a fully automated web scraper. That said, if I did find a way to multi-stream, if I did learn how to use Restream.io, I will start multi-streaming on several platforms such as Twitch, Kick, YouTube, Trovo, Instagram, TikTok, specifically if I didn't meet the followers requirement. So if you guys enjoy my content and haven't followed me there, make sure to follow me there. You guys can get access to any of my socials and gender through the link in the description, through my bio, or by typing exclamation at the name of the social on chat. That said, I did create two brand new channels, one called Viv Arcade and the other called Viv Works Out. Viv Arcade is specifically meant for my gaming content, and Viv Works Out is specifically meant for my workout content. And therefore, if you guys are interested in either one of those genres or if you guys are interested in either one of those genres or categories, and that you guys want to follow me there, I did feature both my channels. Actually, never mind, forget that. You guys can get access to both those channels through my homepage. If you guys scroll all the way down, you guys will be seeing a featured channels, a section where those two channels will be featured. And if you guys do want to follow me in my AI engineering for 365 days series, and that you guys want access to the roadmap that I'm currently using for the series, you guys can get access to the roadmap through my Discord server. If you guys go to either the Coding Helps Us chat, the Python chat, or the general chat, mention my name there at VivUniverse, asking me for the roadmap. I will be personally DMing it to you guys. The link is going to be in the description, the link is going to be in the bio, and you guys can get access to my Discord server by typing exclamation Discord on chat, all lowercase, no space. That said, I'll catch you guys next live stream or video. Peace. Okay, I guess let's end the stream. And I think I sort of like being in my just chatting as opposed to being in my main camera when this goes on here.